Hey guys, tonight we begin with the soft thump of knuckles on wood. Faster, sharper now. You open your eyes to a grayish pre dawn light and a headache shaped like yesterday's bad decisions. You blink. The door shakes again, and a voice, hoarse with authority and phlegm, growls through the cracks. Message from the palace. This is never good news. You sit up, which is generous of you, considering the straw mat beneath your back seems to have been designed by someone who hated vertebrae. The linen blanket, thin as a breath, does nothing to ease the morning chill seeping through your stone walls. Or maybe that's dread. A messenger from the palace doesn't knock unless something has gone terribly right or catastrophically wrong, and statistically, you're not due for anything right. Not since that incident with the barley wine and the mayor's goat. So before you even swing your legs over the side, let's assess your current assets. One tunic, somewhere on the floor, one satchel, leather mostly, one sense of impending doom, very much intact. You stumble to the door barefoot. The floor is cold and slightly damp because ancient houses weren't built with insulation, plumbing, or frankly, much hope. You unlatch the wood bar and crack the door open. There he is, the town's official crier, who looks like he's been awake since the reign of a previous king. He's holding a scroll, a wax seal, and the air of someone who's delivered too many bad messages and doesn't get paid enough to care about yours. For you, he croaks, from the capital. You reach out, confused. I didn't. Doesn't matter. He shoves the scroll into your chest like it's a warm fish and turns on his heel. You'll figure it out. You close the door slowly. The scroll is surprisingly heavy, and the seal bears a crest you've only seen once on a banner. The last time the tax collectors rode through, and everyone suddenly forgot how to spell their own names. You stare at the parchment, it stares back. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You look down at your hands. They're shaking a little, which is fair. This isn't your usual morning routine of try not to spill porridge and avoid eye contact with the baker. This scroll has changed the trajectory of your day, and not in the good surprise cake kind of way. You break the seal. The wax crumbles like the hopes of every unpaid village teacher. Inside is a message written in cramped, spidery script that looks like someone tried to carve Latin with a chicken's foot. You squint at the words, trying to make sense of the loops and slashes. You catch a few alarming phrases: urgency, required, regional delivery, by dusk. Also, something that looks a lot like failure punishable by something unpleasant. You reread the last line. Could be banishment, might be branding. Historians still argue whether that third letter is a D or a T, which in your case could mean the difference between hot iron or hot soup. Both terrible in different ways. One thing is certain, this scroll is going somewhere, and for reasons unclear to everyone, including yourself, you are the lucky contestant selected to carry it. You look out the window. The sun isn't even up. A chicken caws, confused and mildly judgmental. Somewhere, a dog barks at the wind like it owes him money. You consider going back to bed. Then you remember the last villager who ignored a royal directive. His house is now the communal latrine. You sigh deeply. Your tunic is crumpled in the corner, still stained from the great wine spill of last Tuesday. You grab it anyway. Fashion isn't the concern when your life is on the line. Next comes the satchel. You gently fold the scroll inside, tucking it between an old heel of bread and your least filthy handkerchief. You think about packing water. But remember, your canteen now serves as a leaky home for a family of ants. Outside, the sky begins to warm. Pinks and oranges stretch like a lazy god across the horizon. It's beautiful. It's also a reminder that you're running out of time before the sun turns the road into a frying pan and your sandals into regret. As you step outside, villagers peer at you through barely cracked shutters. Word spreads fast in a town where gossip moves quicker than the plague. You're already being recast in their stories, the one chosen to deliver, or more likely, the idiot who said yes. You take your first step onto the dirt path, feeling the weight of the scroll, the rising heat, and the collective assumption that you now represent the village. Wonderful. This isn't just a delivery. This is history. Sort of. And if you survive, you might even get to sleep in tomorrow. Or at least not get executed, which, by your standards, is an upgrade. And with that noble thought, scroll tucked, tunic askew, and breath held, you begin your journey into the wildly impractical world of ancient communication. You walk toward destiny, or a goat with indigestion. Hard to tell from this distance. You barely make it 5 steps before realizing you've forgotten something. Pants. But then you remember, this is the past. No one has pants. Tunics are the hot trend, and by hot, we mean sweaty, clingy, linen rectangles with the structural integrity of wet lettuce. Still, you tug yours down, hoping to avoid flashing the town potter, who is already looking at you like she knows too much. Which, to be fair, she does. Everyone in town knows everything, including the time you tried to flirt with the beekeeper and got stung in a place that rhymes with ow. Back inside, you grab your belt, a braided cord that once belonged to your uncle who claimed it could hold up anything. It cannot, but it will at least keep your tunic from flying open like a philosophical debate on a windy day. Your home is quiet now, except for the soft cooing of pigeons in the rafters and the undeniable smell of last night's lentil stew, which somehow got stronger overnight. You live in what might generously be called a one-room cottage and less generously be called a glorified clay closet. The walls are sun-baked mud brick, cracked from years of temperature swings, and local children using them as a practice wall for sling stones. There is no door, only a woven mat hanging over the entrance. There are no locks, no privacy, and no such thing as personal space. You can hear your neighbor coughing. You can hear his wife reminding him he's coughing too loudly. You can hear their goat having an existential crisis in the courtyard. You glance around to make sure you've packed everything. Scroll, satchel, maybe a heel of stale bread that doubles as a self-defense weapon. You whisper a prayer to whichever god is on scroll duty today. Probably Hermes. Maybe Thoth. Could be Greg, the patron god of accidental messengers. Historians still argue whether such a deity ever existed, but if he did, you're absolutely his favorite mistake. You step outside again, blinking into the early light. The air is dry, a mix of dew and old dust. Your feet instantly register that your sandals are not properly laced. One tug, and the left strap gives out, like your dignity during tax season. Of course, you bend down to fix it, but the leather is cracked, brittle from age, and the time you accidentally wore them into a river to impress someone who promptly married a carpenter with better footwear. There's a sudden shuffle behind you. Old Man Heron, who has never whispered a day in his life, is telling someone you're off on a secret mission. You sigh. Great. By noon, the story will involve dragons, a princess, and a full marching band. You tie the strap anyway, ignoring the smell that tells you a chicken may have recently stood in that very spot and made a contribution. Right, back to the scroll. You take a tentative step onto the road that runs past your house. It's not so much a road as a dirt suggestion. The ruts are deep from cartwheels. Puddles gather where they shouldn't, and goat pellets dot the landscape like morbid breadcrumbs. A passing breeze kicks up a small dust cloud that instantly enters your eye like it pays rent. You blink furiously and keep walking, past the baker's hut, where the door is open and the smell of warm bread mocks your stomach. You consider asking for a slice, but remember, you still owe her 3 copper bits and a mildly sincere apology. The sun is rising now. You can feel it on your neck. Not warm, hot. The kind of hot that makes your scalp rethink its entire commitment to hair. The kind that makes the flies wake up and start looking for someone slightly damp and full of regret. That someone is you. You trudge forward, trying to look purposeful. If you slow down, someone will stop you, probably to ask what you're carrying, or worse, offer to help. You pass the well, where a small gaggle of village women are already gathering water. One of them looks up, tilts her head, and nudges the other. Is that the scroll? One whispers, not quietly at all. I heard it's from the capital, another says, eyes widening. He's been chosen. You wave awkwardly. Chosen is a generous word. Drafted by surprise is more accurate. You were in the right place at the wrong time, and now you're the temporary messenger of doom. Fantastic. You try to ignore them, but their voices follow you like stray dogs. He's going to the next town. Bet he doesn't make it. I give it till midday. You pick up the pace, despite the sensation that your sandals are made of grilled cheese. The road narrows as you leave the cluster of homes. Ahead lies the countryside, low fields, lazy hills, and the occasional tree that hasn't yet died from pessimism. You're officially out of town. You breathe a little easier. There are no more eyes on you now, just the quiet sound of sandals on dirt, the rhythmic squeak of your satchel's leather strap, and the gentle creak of your knees wondering what they did to deserve this. The path curves toward the east, where the sky glows with increasing confidence. Birds chirp, crickets fade. Somewhere in the grass, something rustles, but you've learned not to ask questions about things that rustle. It's safer that way. And then the realization hits. This scroll, this ancient paper of vague doom, has given your life a strange kind of purpose. You, a person previously known only for burning lentils and forgetting birthdays, are now the link between villages, a human bridge of information, a courier of history. You roll your eyes at yourself. Don't get dramatic. You've barely made it past the old olive tree, and your feet already feel like someone stuffed them with beans and anxiety. Still, there's a strange pride in carrying something official, even if it's probably just instructions on where to send goats for census season. Or worse, a royal complaint about the quality of regional cheese. You keep walking. The scroll thumps against your hip like a rhythmic reminder of responsibility. You are the deliverer now. You're sweaty. You're itchy. You smell faintly of old stew and ambition. And you are definitely not ready for what's waiting ahead. You trudge forward, the scroll bouncing gently inside your satchel with every step, as if to whisper, "You're not qualified for this?" Which, fair. The only other thing you've delivered successfully was a basket of eggs that cracked halfway there and ended up as someone's very confused shoe insert. But this scroll, it carries weight, not just literal papery weight, though it does feel like someone rolled it with lead and spite, but social weight, political weight, the kind of weight that ruins weekends. And now, here you are, halfway between two towns, squinting at the sky like it might give directions. Spoiler, it does not. You find a relatively flat rock and decide this is as good a place as any to inspect the message. You pull the scroll out, careful not to smudge the waxy residue still clinging to the broken seal. It smells faintly of ash, maybe beeswax, or possibly whatever the royal scribe had for breakfast. You unroll it slowly, like it might bite. The handwriting is somehow worse than before. Elegant, sure, but in the way that makes you think someone was holding the pen with their teeth while sneezing. You manage to decipher the first few lines. To the Lord of Redfin Hamlet, by decree of His Gracious Highness, Baron Alaric of Thornpost, let it be known. Okay, so far, so ceremonial. You skim further. That this communication contains urgent matters concerning livestock tithes, the redistribution of granary stores, and the rectification of the northern border. You stop. Tithes, redistribution, borders? You've just become the delivery boy for a potential economic dispute. You're the human spark holding a torch over a haystack, a lowly scroll carrier, carding words that, depending on interpretation, could mean send help or start a war. There's a section that reads, by this letter, the Reeve shall adjust tribute values to reflect the updated census estimations following the spring yield ratification. Historians still argue whether ratification in this period actually meant approval or something closer to arbitrary demand. Either way, you know what's about to happen. Someone is going to be unhappy, and they're going to blame the messenger, which is, unfortunately, you. You scan the rest of the message for anything useful, like a phrase that says, please don't kill the courier. Nothing. But then you spot a line scribbled at the very bottom in what looks like different handwriting. Less polished, more rushed. Do not read aloud. Deliver in silence. Excellent. That always bodes well. You tuck the scroll back into your satchel and sit in silence for a moment thinking. The sun is climbing, your back is sweating, and your left sandal is already plotting mutiny. You stand. Time to keep walking. You round a bend and spot a small stone marker at the edge of the path. It's carved with a symbol that looks like a fish eating a scroll. Could be coincidence. Could be regional symbolism. Could be someone's failed art project. Either way, it feels significant. You keep going. Soon you hear voices. You're not even near the next village yet, but there they are, up ahead, two men arguing beside a cart with a broken wheel. One holds a sack of something squishy. The other is gesturing wildly with a turnip. They see you. Of course they do. Traveler, the turnip wielder calls. You there, with the satchel. You consider pretending to be someone else. But your tunic has your village's dye stripe. Your face is known. You're hopeless at lying. And your scroll probably glows with guilt. So you wave. Morning. What brings you down this road? The other man asks, squinting at you like he's hoping for something scandalous. I'm delivering correspondence, you say, carefully avoiding eye contact with the turnip. From who? You hesitate. Then try, from the Baron of Thornpost. The effect is immediate. Turnip Guy's eyebrows shoot upward. The other man drops his sack, and whatever's inside gives a moist thud. The Baron? They echo, in the way people do when they suddenly realize you're either very important or very flammable. You nod, smile tightly, and keep walking. The men don't follow, but their silence sticks to you like burrs on a tunic hymn. You're past them now, walking faster. Your pulse is up. Your armpits are staging a rebellion. And suddenly, you're more aware than ever that the scroll isn't just important, it's leverage. Whoever receives it has power, and whoever doesn't might want it. There's a saying you heard once from a traveling minstrel with more scars than teeth. Scrolls weigh nothing until someone reads them. Then they weigh everything. You didn't get it at the time. Now you do. The road widens briefly, and you pass under a twisted olive tree whose branches look like arthritic fingers reaching for gossip. A crow watches you from above, judging. They always judge. Up ahead, a crossroads. One path leads to Redfin Hamlet, your intended destination. The other leads toward the river, faster, but full of leeches, snakes, and one very territorial goose. You remember that goose. You still have emotional scars. You pause. A soft breeze stirs your hair. The weight of the scroll shifts slightly in the bag, reminding you this isn't about your comfort. This is duty. Kind of, if you squint. You take the Redfin path. The trees thin. The air smells of wood smoke and garlic. A sure sign you're approaching civilization. And suddenly, there it is. A small cluster of thatched roofs, a low watchtower, and a communal bread oven that's already burning something into charcoal. Redfin Hamlet. You made it. Almost. Now all you have to do is find the reeve, deliver the scroll, and somehow survive the part where everyone reads the words and decides they're mad at you. You straighten your shoulders, adjust your satchel, and practice your most neutral, I just deliver things expression. It's about to get complicated. As you step into Redfin Hamlet, the first thing you notice is that it smells like onions and unresolved tension. The kind of place where even the goats seem slightly suspicious of newcomers, and every wooden shutter creaks with passive aggression. You walk down the narrow main path, passing a trio of children who stop mid-mud, fight to stare at you. One points and whispers something to the others. They giggle, then resume throwing clumps with renewed vigor, now aimed suspiciously closer to your knees. You pick up the pace. You're here on official business after all. Sort of. Your tunic is wrinkled, your satchel is dusty, and you're sweating like a scribe in tax season. But technically, you're a government courier. Even if you were only drafted into service this morning and have absolutely no idea what you're doing, the town isn't big. A dozen homes, a tavern shaped like a slouching potato, and a meeting hall built slightly askew, like it lost an argument with gravity. You ask a passing baker, half covered in flour and skepticism, where to find the reeve. Meeting hall, she says, nodding toward the crooked building. If he's awake. You approach the door and knock with a certain amount of false confidence. Nothing. You knock again. A long pause, then footsteps. Slow ones, like someone thinking very hard about whether it's worth answering. The door creaks open. A man peers out, robe slightly unfastened, hair resembling a startled haystack. This is either the reeve or someone who lost a bet to dress like one. Yes? He asks, blinking in the bright light like he's never seen the sun before. You straighten up and say with your most dignified tone, "Scroll delivery. From the Baron of Thornpost. Urgent." His eyes drop to the satchel, then back to your face. "You're the courier?" he asks, voice heavy with doubt. "Temporarily," you reply. He sighs, scratches his chin, and opens the door wider. "Come in then." Let's see what fire he's lit this time. You enter a room that smells like damp parchment and regret. Shelves sag under the weight of scrolls, most of which seem to double as coasters. A small brazier crackles in the corner, offering warmth and the faint aroma of burning dust mites. You hand over the scroll. He breaks the seal and begins reading. And reading and frowning, you wait. You try not to shift nervously. You fail. Eventually, he sighs, a long groaning exhale that seems to come from somewhere behind his knees, and mutters, "Why does he always do this on a Tuesday?" You nod as if you understand. You do not. He glances up. "Do you know what this says?" "I read some of it," you admit. That earns you a flat look. "Then you know what it means." "Redistribution of granary stores?" you say hopefully. "That's the polite version," he mutters, rolling the scroll back up. "This is going to make people very angry." He stands, stretches, and yells out the door, "Marta, wake the council. There's a commotion outside." A few groans, one very audible. "Already?" You take a step back, thinking your part might be done. It is not. He looks at you. "You'll need to stay and witness the reading. For official record." "Ah, of course." The unpaid intern gets to be the official record now. Soon, the room fills with people who all look equally grumpy and equally suspicious of you. There's a farmer still carrying a pitchfork, a merchant with ink stained hands, and a woman who looks like she could crush rocks with her glare alone. The Reeve clears his throat. "Message from Baron Alaric of Thornpost." He reads the scroll aloud, and with every line, the mood in the room curdles. "Redistribution of excess stores to Thornpost in compensation for spring shortages. Increase in tithes by 3 bushels per household. Additional census requested by year's end." By the time he finishes, the room is humming with quiet fury. Someone coughs. Then, Farmer Pitchfork says what everyone is thinking. "He wants our grain?" The Reeve says nothing. He doesn't have to. The merchant speaks next. "We barely made quota last year. My family lived on beet broth and stubbornness." Rock Crusher Lady adds, "And now we give more to the Baron because he miscalculated?" Again, all eyes shift to you. This is the moment you regret waking up. You hold up your hands. "I'm just the messenger." "Ah, convenient," mutters someone. "Suspicious," adds someone else. You smile nervously. "Truly, I don't even know how to spell redistribution." That earns a few snorts, but the tension doesn't break. The Reeve holds up the scroll again. "There's a postscript," he says, peering at the bottom. "It says the Baron expects written confirmation of compliance by week's end." Everyone groans. The merchant glares at you. "Tell your Baron this. If he wants our grain, he can come get it himself. Preferably while carrying his own shovel," someone mumbles. You nod, slowly backing toward the door. But just before you escape, the Reeve stops you. One moment, he picks up a quill, scribbles something on a scrap of parchment, folds it, seals it with wax using a coin for a stamp, and hands it to you. "Take this back," he says. "Tell him we'll discuss further in person. He'll know what it means." You're fairly certain that's code for not good news. You tuck the new scroll into your satchel. It's lighter than the last one, but it feels heavier somehow. As you leave the building, the council stares after you like a group of cats deciding whether you're prey or an inconvenient roommate. You're not sure if you just delivered a message or detonated one. Either way, you're walking out with all your limbs, which is a win. But as you step back onto the dusty road, you realize something chilling. You now have to go back. You leave Redfen Hamlet with a new scroll in your satchel, your sandals now held together by sheer optimism and a vine you stole from someone's garden fence. You hope they don't notice. or at least that they blame someone else, preferably someone with fewer blisters. The road back feels longer, heavier, and somehow louder. Every step seems to crunch a little harder. Every breeze whistles just slightly more judgmentally. It's like nature knows you've become a diplomatic hot potato. Halfway down the trail, your stomach grumbles, loudly. You remember the half loaf of bread you packed. It's somewhere between bread and artifact now, stiff enough to defend yourself with, but still technically edible. You gnaw a corner and immediately regret it. It tastes like sadness and pottery shards. You sit on a stump, chewing slowly, trying to forget that you might be delivering the spark of civil disobedience. No pressure. Suddenly, a rustle in the underbrush. You freeze. Out walks a goat. You breathe again, but then a second sound, a much heavier rustle. A figure steps out from behind a tree, cloaked, hooded, leaning on a walking stick that somehow seems more threatening than supportive. "Good morning, traveler," the figure says, voice smooth and suspiciously well rested. You glance around. No witnesses. Just you, a mysterious stranger, and a goat who seems ready to judge the outcome. "Morning," you say, trying to sound casual. "Lovely day for walking." "Indeed," the figure nods. "Lovely day for carrying scrolls." Your heart skips. "I see many things," the stranger adds. "Things others miss. Like that satchel bulge, scroll-shaped, wax-sealed, official looking." You clutch the strap instinctively. "I'm just the messenger," you say. "Aren't we all?" the figure replies, with the kind of smirk that implies they've stolen someone's lunch and blamed a squirrel for it. You consider running, but your sandals say no, loudly, with creaks. "May I see it?" the figure asks, gesturing toward your satchel. You laugh. Not politely, just nervously. It's really more of a private letter from the Reeve to the Baron about bushels. "Bushels," the figure repeats deadpan. "Ah, yes. Nothing more dangerous than a bushel dispute." They step forward, you step back. Then the goat sneezes and both of you jump. The figure pauses, smiles wider. "No matter," they say. "I'll see it soon enough. These messages have a way of becoming public." They turn and vanish back into the trees with an elegance that suggests theater training and too much free time. You sit down, hard on the stump, scroll pressed to your chest like a squishy shield. That? That was not normal. That was interference. Your first real taste of what veteran scroll carriers call passive threats with dramatic flair. You dust off your tunic, stand up, and continue walking. But now every branch seems like a lookout. Every rustle feels conspiratorial. Even the goat trots ahead, like it knows something you don't. You pick up the pace, and then, just to make things worse, it starts to rain. Not normal rain. That would be fine. No, this is the spiteful sideways drizzle that makes every dry thing immediately feel moldy. Your tunic clings to your arms. Your satchel starts to sag. The scroll inside is wrapped in waxed cloth, but you still panic. What if it gets wet? What if the ink runs and the Baron thinks Redfin sent him a watercolor painting of a cow? You duck under a tree, trying to shield the satchel with your body. A branch pokes you in the ear. Somewhere behind you, thunder laughs. You wait out the rain as best you can, muttering to yourself about weather, goats, and mysterious drama wizards. When it slows to a mist, you emerge, muddy, soaked, and smelling faintly of despair. Back on the road, more walking. Your feet ache. Your lower back has opinions. Your patience is evaporating faster than your dignity. Then, Just when you think you're making decent time, you see a figure ahead, another traveler, sitting under a lean to, fashioned from sticks and some deeply unenthusiastic fabric. As you approach, the traveler waves. You look official, they say. Message bearer? You hesitate. Depends who's asking. I used to be one too, they say, patting the ground beside them. Come, rest. You sit, more out of leg rebellion than trust. The traveler offers you a small hunk of cheese. You pretend to accept it politely, then tuck it away for later, when you're feeling more immune to gastrointestinal risk. I've carried scrolls for years, the traveler says, all over the baronies. You get used to the dust, the boredom, the occasional outlaw. You nod. This is my first. Oof, the traveler grimaces. They never warn you about the part where the words matter more than the person carrying them. They don't. Ever had someone try to read it over your shoulder? Today, actually, the traveler chuckles. Classic mistake. Don't stop in open view. Don't trust lone travelers. And whatever you do, never deliver to a baron directly without getting a receipt. You blink. A receipt? You think nobles don't lie? You think they won't say, I never got it, and have you whipped for delay? Oh, yeah. A silence falls. The rain has stopped. The sky is a strange mix of peach and pewter. The goat from earlier reappears, looks at you, and bleats as if to say, You again? You stand. Thanks for the advice, you say. The traveler smiles. You'll learn, or you won't. Either way, the scrolls keep coming. You walk away, but you don't forget the words. You're not just carrying paper, you're carrying interpretation. Intentions twisted in ribbon and wax. People will hear what they want, react how they feel, and you're just the one holding the fuse. By the time you see your home village's rooftops, the sky has darkened again. You're drenched, sore, and wondering if it's too late to become a cobbler or something safer, like beekeeping. You tighten the satchel strap. One scroll delivered, one returned. But something tells you this isn't the end. It's only the beginning. You stumble back into the village with the grace of a stunned duck. Everything hurts. Your feet, your back, even your ears, which somehow managed to get sunburned and rain-soaked in the same day. The scroll is still tucked safely in your satchel. Thank whatever deity oversees absurd administrative duties. The sky is sliding into twilight now, casting the world in that soft, confusing orange that makes everyone look mildly suspicious. You pass the baker's house. She gives you a look that says, Still alive? Unexpected. You nod like a war veteran. You reach your hut and consider collapsing. But you can't. Not yet. Because as you approach, there's a man in official-looking robes standing at your door, arms crossed, expression carved from the concept of disappointment. Courier, he says, not a question. You freeze. That's me. I was sent ahead by the Baron, he says. He wants the Reeves reply tonight. Not tomorrow. Not after a nap. Tonight. Of course he does. You sigh, pull the scroll from your satchel, and hand it over. The man breaks the seal, skims the parchment, and snorts. Oh, he's going to love this. Is that good or bad? You ask, even though you know better. Depends on your definition of the word love, he replies. He tucks the scroll into a slim case strapped to his belt, gives you a nod that contains exactly 0 gratitude, and turns on his heel. That should be the end. But it's not, because 10 minutes later, as you're finally unstrapping your sandals and counting your remaining toenails, there's another knock on the door. This one's softer, more uncertain. You open it. It's your neighbor, the one with the permanently furrowed brow and a collection of chickens who all seem vaguely haunted. Evening, he says, word is you delivered a scroll today. That's one way of putting it. They say you did good. Townsfolk are talking. You blink. Talking how? Like you're the guy who gets things done. Under pressure, quiet, doesn't spill secrets, doesn't cry in public. I cried once, you say. It was a very sharp onion. He ignores that. Well, there's a new scroll. You stare. From the miller's cousin's brother-in-law. Wants something taken to Iron Ridge. 3 towns over. No official seals, just a request. But there's coin. Coin, that magical word. You could really use some coin. Your roof leaks. Your sandals are more hole than shoe. And last week you traded a spoon for 3 onions and a deeply discounted insult. You hesitate. Is it dangerous? It's Iron Ridge. Of course it's dangerous, but the pay's decent. You think about it, and then you say yes, which is how. 5 minutes later, you find yourself at the tavern with a satchel containing a scroll tied with blue twine and a copper coin pressed into your palm like a promise of pain. You sit at a corner table, hoping for one drink, maybe some stew, and ideally a lack of additional responsibilities. But fate has other plans, because just as you raise your mug, someone slides into the seat across from you. It's a scribe. You can tell by the ink-stained fingers, the superior expression, and the fact that they're already judging your handwriting before you've even written anything. I heard you delivered the Thornpost scroll, the scribe says, with all the friendliness of a broken abacus. I did, you reply. It survived. Barely. Did you read it? You hesitate. Yes, you admit, bits of it. The scribe smirks. That's illegal, you know. So is hoarding fermented radishes, you reply. But I don't see anyone arresting the tavern keeper. The scribe chuckles. Fair. You sip your drink. It tastes like lukewarm regret and hops. Better than nothing. The scribe leans in. You know, I transcribed that scroll. Oh, I did. And let me tell you something. It wasn't meant to be delivered. You blink. What? It was a decoy, they whisper. The Baron wanted to see who would leak it. Your stomach tightens. Leak it to whom? The scribe shrugs. Rival lords, disloyal reeves, or just nosy scribes. There's a whole network, you know. There's a network? Oh yes, they say, swirling their cup. Scrolls get intercepted, rewritten, delayed, redirected. Some never arrive. Some get altered, just enough to cause confusion. You stare, but why? Because confusion keeps power in the hands of those who already have it, the scribe says. If no one knows the truth, no one can challenge the version they're told. You stare at the satchel beside you, the blue-tied scroll, the new delivery. How do you even know what's real, you ask. You don't, the scribe says, draining their mug. That's the fun. They leave. You sit in silence. Outside, the wind rustles through the alley like a whispered warning. You glance around the tavern. Villagers laughing, drinking, telling stories they'll half remember by morning. And here you are, holding a scroll. Again. You open the satchel and look at it. Just a simple roll of parchment, tied with blue twine, sealed with plain wax. Could be harmless. Could be the start of a revolution. You have no idea. But you're starting to understand something important. The scrolls are never just messages. They're mirrors, maps, traps, sometimes all 3. You sip your drink. The stew arrives, cold but edible. You eat slowly, thinking. You're not a farmer anymore, not just a village nobody. You're a courier now, and couriers, they walk between truths. You don't sleep that night. It's not fear exactly. It's more anticipation, the slightly nauseating kind that comes from knowing you volunteered for something that sounded much simpler when described over a lukewarm drink. You keep staring at the scroll tied in blue twine. It rests on your table, unassuming, even innocent looking, like it might contain a shopping list or a cousin's wedding invitation. But after that scribe's revelation, you see it differently, as if it's watching you, waiting to become something worse the moment someone opens it. Morning arrives like a slap. You pack the scroll carefully, stuffing a spare tunic into your satchel to keep it from jostling. Your sandals are dry, barely holding together with the vine still hanging on, loyal and confused. As you step outside, the village is waking up. Someone's already burning something they shouldn't. The blacksmith's apprentice is arguing with a chicken again, and the baker is pulling loaves from her oven like she's angry at each and every one of them. You make for the main road, trying not to think too hard. But of course, your brain insists. What if this scroll is more dangerous than the last? What if Iron Ridge isn't just a town, but a test? What if someone wants it intercepted? What if you're the only person not in on the game? You shake your head and walk faster. You're still new at this, but you're learning something that professional couriers never say out loud. The path is rarely about the distance. It's about the people waiting along the way and the ones who don't want you to arrive. Which is why you're not entirely surprised when you spot your first obstacle by mid-morning. A man stands on the road ahead, not moving, not waving, just standing. He's wearing a tunic a little too clean for someone who's supposedly out for a morning walk. His boots are shiny, his hands are behind his back, and he's smiling in that polite, terrifying way that says, I know everything and I'm here to ruin your day. You slow your pace, not because you're scared, of course, just cautious, strategically cautious. Good day, he calls, as if you're about to share tea and crumpets under a friendly tree. Headed to Iron Ridge, you consider pretending to be someone else. But let's face it, your face is already a known scroll carrier in these parts. You nod. May I walk with you? He asks, already falling into step beside you without waiting for an answer. Are you also going to Iron Ridge? You ask. Not exactly, he replies, which is not a comforting answer. There's a silence. The air smells of morning dust and low-level suspicion. You're carrying something, he says casually. Scroll, I'd wager. Looks heavy. You laugh in the nervous, high-pitched way of someone who just realized they've left their door unlocked and a fox has entered the henhouse. It's a recipe, you say. Oh, good, he replies. I love recipes. There's another silence. This one thicker. You pass a cluster of bushes and notice the glint of metal. Another figure, crouched, watching. Too still to be a hunter. Too close to be a coincidence. You keep walking. Funny thing about scrolls, the man says. So easy to write. So hard to trust. Especially when people start editing them mid-route. Your heart beats faster. He's one of them. You pick up the pace. I've heard, you say, that people who tamper with scrolls tend to get eaten by goats. It's not your best line. He chuckles anyway. Oh, I'm not interested in changing the message, he says. I just like to know what kind of message makes it all the way through. That's worse somehow. You glance ahead. There's a narrow bridge coming up. Just wide enough for two people. Just isolated enough that no one would hear a scream muffled by a strategically placed sack of oats. You stop. I need to pee, you say, hoping boldness will be enough to make it weird. He stops too. I'll wait. Of course he will. You step off the road and into a patch of underbrush, pretending to fiddle with your tunic while actually pulling your satchel around your front. Then you run, not heroically, not gracefully, just pure, flailing, chicken-legged panic. Branches slap your face. Rocks stub your toes. You think you hear laughter behind you. Not chasing, just amused. You burst out the other side of the woods onto a side trail. Not the main road, not a good road, but a different road, and right now, that feels like a win. You keep running until your lungs demand an apology. You slow to a jog, then to a walk, then to a full body wheeze against a suspiciously shaped rock. After several minutes of regret and light vomiting, you sit. The scroll is still in your satchel, untouched, possibly cursed. You look around. You're off course now, but still generally headed east. Probably. Hopefully. The trees are thicker here, the trail narrower, fewer signs of travel, but safer because no one knows you're here. You start walking again. Every snap of a twig makes your neck twitch. Every bird call sounds like a coded whistle. You eventually reach a wide meadow with knee-high grass and a cluster of stones stacked in a spiral pattern. Some ancient marker, maybe. Historians still argue whether such structures were spiritual waypoints or just medieval lawn art. Either way, it feels vaguely protective. You sit near it to catch your breath. For the first time in hours, it's quiet. The scroll is still warm from being tucked against your chest. You realize something then. This isn't just about delivery anymore. You're starting to matter. Not because of who you are, but because of what you carry. And that might be more dangerous than anything else. You lie back in the grass, staring up at the slowly passing clouds, and whisper to the sky, I am just the messenger. But even you don't believe it anymore. You don't remember falling asleep, but you wake to the sound of bells. Tiny ones, soft, musical, oddly synchronized. You sit up fast, heart thudding. The meadow is now painted in early afternoon light, golden and heavy, like butter melting over everything. The stones beside you cast long, lounging shadows. And from down the road, if you can still call it a road, comes a cart. It's pulled by a mule that appears to be on strike, and driven by a man wearing a hat so wide it may legally qualify as a canopy. Hanging from the cart's frame are dozens of little brass bells that jingle with every pothole and bump, which is a lot, considering the state of the path. The cart creaks to a stop beside you. The driver peers down from beneath his portable circus tent of a hat. You lost? He asks, squinting suspiciously. You consider your options. You could say no. You could lie and pretend this is exactly where you meant to be. But then again, your hair looks like it lost a fight with a shrub. Your tunic is damp with existential sweat. And your left sandal is mostly faith at this point. Yes, you admit. The man nods, as if this is the most respectable answer he's heard all day. Courier? You pause. Sort of. He gestures to the back of the cart. Get in. I'm headed toward Iron Ridge. Slowly. You don't ask why. You just climb in. Inside, the cart smells of hay, herbs, and mild regret. There are crates, jugs, and bundles of something that could be onions or cursed root vegetables. You find a spot between a sack of grain and a wooden box labeled definitely not ferrets. The cart lurches forward. You sway with emotion, feeling the weariness settle back into your bones. The bells continue their tinkling symphony, soothing, almost hypnotic. For the first time in hours, you're not walking. Your feet weep with gratitude. The driver glances back. First time delivering? Second, you say. He raises an eyebrow. Still have all your fingers? Impressive. You smile, weakly. Barely. He nods again. Like this checks out. Scroll. Carrying is a dangerous line of work. Not because of what you carry, but because everyone thinks they know what you carry. You shift, adjusting your satchel protectively. Had a friend once, the driver continues. Carried a shopping list, just a list, 10 items. Bread, salt, turnips, the usual. Got stopped by a local warlord scouts who thought it was code. They spent 2 days interrogating him over what pickled onions meant. Was it code? No, he just really liked pickled onions. You let that sink in. The road winds through a patch of forest now, dappled light flickering across your face like candlelight through leaves. It should feel peaceful. It doesn't, because just up ahead is a gate, a literal one, wooden, fortified, with 2 guards standing in front of it like they were hired to ruin your day. The cart slows. You sit up straighter. One of the guards steps forward. State your business. The driver replies, vegetables, and 1 scroll courier. You instantly feel exposed, like a produce crate with anxiety. The guard peers at you. Proof? You rummage in your satchel and produce, well, the scroll. Still sealed. Still tied in its indigo twine. You hold it up like it might emit a pleasant musical tone and solve all your problems. The guard doesn't touch it. He just squints. Seal's plain, he mutters. Who's it for? You hesitate. You actually don't know. You were told Iron Ridge, but no specific name. It occurs to you that this is possibly the worst possible answer at a checkpoint. Not sure, you say. I'm just delivering to the town scribe. Both guards look at each other. That look that people give when something smells fishy, but they can't quite prove the fish is in your pocket. Step off the cart, one says. The driver sighs. Every time, you hop down, trying to appear helpful and non-threatening, like a particularly polite mushroom. The guard takes the scroll and holds it up to the light. Sealed, he mutters. No crest, no signature. Could be a decoy. The other guard leans in. Or bait? They look at you. What's your name? You say brilliantly. They wait. You blurt. Pickled onions. There is silence. Then the first guard barks a laugh. Well, Mr. Onions, we're going to hang onto this scroll for a bit. Protocol. You panic. But it has to reach Iron Ridge by dusk. Then you better go on ahead and explain the delay, the second guard says, tucking the scroll under his arm like a baguette of betrayal. The cart creaks forward without you. The driver shrugs as he passes. They'll probably forget where they put it. That's what happened to my cousin. Spent a week trying to retrieve a love letter from a pigeon coop. The gate slams shut behind you. Now you're standing on a dirt road, scrollless, outside Iron Ridge, which is still a 2-hour walk away. If you sprint, which you absolutely won't, because you have the knees of someone who's lived through 2 harvest seasons and 1 unfortunate fall into a cider vat. You sigh deeply, the kind of sigh that echoes into your past lives. Then, behind you, a whisper. Lost something? You turn. It's the scribe from the tavern. How? Why? When? They're holding the scroll. Your scroll. What? How? They intercepted it, the scribe says. I intercepted them. It's a competitive business. You blink. But why are you following me? They smile. Because I think you're interesting. You're not good at this job, but you haven't died yet, which is rare. That's comforting. The scribe hands you the scroll. Take it to the west tower of Iron Ridge, they say. Don't hand it to the first scribe you see, only to the one with a blue quill. Got it? You nod slowly. This is getting oddly specific. Oh, they add, and don't open it. I mean, really this time. You nod again. They vanish. Just like that. Into the trees. You're beginning to suspect this profession is less about logistics and more about surviving an elaborate walking riddle. You tuck the scroll back into your satchel, heart racing, feet sore, and start walking. No cart this time. Just you, the road, and a message that may or may not determine the fate of someone you've never met. Iron Ridge awaits. You just hope they're still accepting visitors who answer to Mr. Onions. The road to Iron Ridge is less of a road and more of a suggestion made by someone who had never walked before. It weaves like a drunk serpent between rocky outcrops and the occasional bush that looks like it bites. Your feet, already in a committed relationship with discomfort, are now filing for divorce. You trudge forward, the scroll once again in your satchel, now somehow heavier than ever. You keep glancing at it, half expecting it to burst into flames or whisper cryptic riddles. So far, it just sits there, ominously silent, which is worse somehow. The scribe's instructions ring in your ears. West Tower, Blue Quill. That's it. No names, no passwords, just architectural orientation and stationary preferences. You crest a small hill, and there, finally, is Iron Ridge. It sprawls along the base of a cliff like it collapsed there accidentally, and no one had the heart to move it. Stone buildings, tightly packed, a wall of gray blocks topped with guards who look deeply bored and lightly sunburned. And yes, on the far western side, a tall tower with a crooked peak, like someone tried to straighten it and gave up halfway. You descend into the town, immediately engulfed by sound, hammers, carts, street vendors, yelling about fish you wouldn't trust even on a dare. You push your way through the crowd, trying not to bump into anyone important looking or stabby looking, both common here. The city smells of metal, sweat, and overcooked onions, a medieval cologne no one asked for. You finally reach the base of the West Tower. It's quiet, which is strange, given the rest of the town is in a state of enthusiastic chaos. You knock on the door. Nothing. You knock again. This time it creaks open. No one answers. Just the echo of your poor life choices bouncing down the stairwell. You step inside. The air is thick with dust and ink and the faint sweet smell of old candle wax. Scrolls line the walls like an ancient library made by someone who alphabetized things by mood. You climb the narrow stairs, the wood creaking beneath your every step like it's trying to tell you to turn back. At the top, a room, small, circular. Windows on three sides, each pointing to different views of the city, market, castle, river. The fourth wall is covered in bookshelves, and at a desk in the center, beneath a crooked beam of sunlight, sits a person, hunched, robed, writing with, yes, a blue quill. You clear your throat. The figure looks up slowly, as if you've interrupted a thought that was just about to become useful. Yes, they ask, voice smooth, low, and somewhere between ancient wisdom and mild indigestion. I was told to deliver this, you say, pulling the scroll from your satchel. They gesture for you to approach. You do. Slowly. They take the scroll, turn it in their hands, examining the seal. Then they nod. You came the long way, they murmur. Avoided the southern pass? I avoided someone who called me Mr. Onions. That gets a faint smile, possibly the highest compliment in courier culture. The scribe breaks the seal, unrolls the scroll, reads, and then laughs. Not a polite chuckle, a full-bodied, table-slapping, scroll-shaking laugh. You blink. What's funny? This, they say, waving the parchment. This is nothing. I carried it for 2 days. It's still nothing. They keep reading. Their face shifts between amusement and mild horror. Do you know what this says? They ask. No, I was told not to read it. They nod approvingly. Good. You shouldn't. But I'll tell you anyway. They read a line aloud. All matters previously discussed are now irrelevant. Redirect attention to the second list. You stare. What second list? The scribe shrugs. Exactly. Another line, this communication supersedes all others received before the feast of broken spoons. You tilt your head. Is that a real holiday? Historians still argue whether it commemorated a famine or a particularly aggressive cutlery shortage. They say deadpan. They continue reading. Your brain begins to leak out your ears. Finally, they roll up the scroll and place it in a drawer. That's it? You ask. That's it. No follow up? None. You blink. So what do I do now? They pause, then open another drawer, pull out a fresh scroll, and begin writing. You rest, they say, and in the morning, you'll take this to Frost Hollow. You freeze. Frost Hollow? You repeat. That's 3 days from here. 5, they correct. If it rains, why me? Because, they say, not looking up from their writing, you delivered this one. And in courier circles, that's the same as volunteering. You feel your soul quietly filing a complaint. You slump into a nearby chair. Do I at least get food? Or money? Or a better satchel? The scribe smiles. You get something better. You get access. To what? To the truth behind the scrolls. That sounds dramatic. Possibly fake. Definitely intriguing. You lean forward. What truth? The scribe finishes writing, rolls up the scroll, ties it with a green ribbon this time, seals it with wax bearing the symbol of a broken circle. You'll learn soon, they say. But you should know, some messages are designed to deliver themselves. You squint. What does that even mean? They slide the scroll toward you. You'll figure it out on the road. You pick it up, heavier than the last one, but smoother, cleaner, like it's waiting to transform into a problem at the worst possible moment. You sigh. You're a scroll deliverer now, officially, permanently, maybe even ceremonially, and somewhere between ancient ink, twisted motives, and courier politics, you realize this might be the most important nothing you've ever carried. You don't leave the West Tower right away. You sit with the scroll in your lap, eyeing the green ribbon, like it might sprout legs and run off without you. The scribe's words echo in your head. Some messages are designed to deliver themselves. What does that even mean? Is this scroll enchanted? Is it going to whisper secrets to someone in their sleep? Is it possibly a metaphor for a deeply bureaucratic ghost? You resist the urge to crack it open. You really do. But the green ribbon is so smug. Still, you don't. You're starting to learn. Or at least, you're starting to fear consequences more efficiently. Outside, the city winds down for the evening. Iron Ridge transforms under moonlight into a different kind of chaos. Quieter, sharper. Less shouting, more whispering. Candles flicker behind narrow windows. Alleyways stretch like yawns. Cats argue philosophy in the gutters. You find a room at a tavern just off the main square. It's called the Cracked Tankard, and it smells like someone once tried to ferment furniture inside it. You're too tired to care. The innkeeper doesn't even ask your name, just hands you a key, shaped like a regret, and points up the stairs. Your room is small. One bed, one window, one chair that wobbles even when no one is near it. You sleep like a rock with anxiety. And in the morning, you leave before the sun gets smug. The scroll is nestled in your satchel, tucked between a hunk of yesterday's bread and a pouch of questionable raisins. You head east this time, to Frost Hollow, which sounds like a place with uncomfortable weather and even more uncomfortable people. The road starts smooth enough, cobbled for a while, then dirt, then gravel, then what can only be described as regret with rocks. But you're used to that now. You walk like someone who expects their feet to complain, but knows they won't quit. You carry yourself a little straighter, a little warier, because by now you've learned three things. Scrolls are rarely what they seem. People are often worse, and the worst ones usually smile first. You make good time. By noon, you're passing small farmsteads and travelers heading the other way. Merchants, pilgrims, someone pushing a wheelbarrow filled with turnips, and exactly one very confused duck. One man greets you and asks, "What's the news from Iron Ridge?" You pause, rain, and scrolls. He laughs, like that's a joke. You don't correct him. By late afternoon, you find yourself at a fork in the road. One sign points left. Frost Hollow, 2 days, Wagon Road. The other points right. Frost Hollow, 1 day, Ridge Trail. You glance at your feet, then at the satchel, then at your feet again. You're tempted by the Ridge Trail. 1 day? That's practically efficient. But something about the word ridge feels aggressive, like it's daring you to make bad choices. And you are very susceptible to dares. So naturally, you take the trail. It begins nicely enough. Cool shade, firm ground, birds, singing something that might be inspirational or deeply insulting. You feel like you might actually get ahead for once. But then the incline begins and keeps going and going. You lean forward like you're trying to smell the ground ahead of you. Your calves scream. Your lungs stage a formal protest. At one point, you swear your shadow rolls its eyes at you. You stop to rest at a narrow outcrop with a view. Below, you can see the patchwork fields from this morning. Tiny people moving like ants. Somewhere, a dog barks at a cloud. You reach for your water flask. Empty, of course. You sit panting and look at the scroll. The ribbon is still green, still smug, but now it seems slightly amused, as if it knew you'd choose the harder way. "Don't look at me like that," you mutter to the parchment. It offers no apology. You rest for a bit longer, long enough for the wind to pick up and bring the scent of pine and distant soup. Then you stand, because if there's one thing you've learned, it's this: messages don't wait. You climb. As you reach the summit ridge, the wind becomes a character in your story. Loud, impatient, a bit of a drama queen. It howls around you, tugging at your satchel, at your tunic, at your increasingly unstable sense of purpose. Then ahead, a shape, a figure standing at the edge of the path, cloaked, hooded, because of course there is. You approach slowly, not even pretending to be stealthy. You're wheezing too much for that. The figure speaks, a voice low and raspy. You carry the message. You sigh. "Look, if this is another mysterious interception attempt, I'm tired, my raisins are weird, and I just climbed a hill that tried to kill me. So maybe skip the cryptic monologue." There's a pause. Then, to your surprise, the figure nods. "Fair." They reach into their cloak and pull out a badge, a silver circle stamped with the image of a raven carrying a scroll. You blink. "You're one of us?" The figure smiles. "Courier Guild, Ridge Division." "There's a Ridge Division?" "There's a division for everything," they say. "You took the dangerous path. So now we know you're either very brave or very stupid." You nod. "Why not both?" They laugh. "Come on. There's a checkpoint hut half a mile up. I'll walk you there." And so you do, together. You reach the hut. Inside, it's warm, dry, and stocked with biscuits. Actual biscuits. You sit by the fire as the other courier logs your arrival into a thick leather ledger with too many initials and not enough vowels. "Tomorrow," they say, "you'll finish the delivery." You look at the scroll in your satchel. Still sealed, still mysterious. "Do you know what's in it?" you ask. They shake their head. "We never know. We just carry it forward." And as the fire crackles and the biscuits crumble, You realize something important. You may not know the message, but you've become the thread that binds people to it. And that, oddly enough, is starting to feel like purpose. You wake in the ridge hut to the sound of wind dragging its nails across the roof. Outside, the morning fog hangs thick and slow, as if the mountain is exhaling secrets it's not ready to share. You lie there for a moment, wrapped in a rough wool blanket, watching your breath swirl in little white clouds. It smells faintly of pine, ink, and someone else's socks. The green ribbon scroll sits on the nearby table, untouched, but not unjudged. You swear it's watching you again. Your guide from yesterday, the Ridge Division courier, is already gone. Left a note on a biscuit. Trail's yours now. Stay left at the fork, or you'll end up at a goat wedding. Don't ask. So, another day, another scroll, another chance to accidentally start a diplomatic incident while wearing the same pair of socks for the third day running. You pack your things, tuck the scroll safely into your satchel, and head out into the mist. The path is narrower now, less forgiving. Every step is a guess. The gravel slips. Your ankles creak like an old door that's seen too many regrets. But you keep going, because couriers do not stop. Especially not when the alternative is explaining to a baron why his missive now lives at the bottom of a ravine, keeping company with moss and shame. You make good time, or so you tell yourself. Time doesn't mean much when everything is fog and foot pain, but eventually the trail begins to descend and the wind carries a new smell. Smoke, baked stone, and something metallic. You've arrived. Frost Hollow. It appears from the mist like a secret being whispered to the landscape. Low stone walls, slate roofs, chimneys, coughing out gray spirals of warmth. It looks like the sort of place where everything closes at dusk, and everyone knows if you're not from here. You reach the gate. There's no one there, just a bell. You ring it. Eventually, a small wooden hatch opens in the gate and a face peers out. Pale, wrinkled, deeply skeptical. Yes, says the face. I'm here with a scroll, you reply. Green ribbon. The hatch closes. Several minutes pass. Then the gate opens with a loud, rusty groan that feels like a threat. A woman waits on the other side. Short, sharp eyes, holding a clipboard made of bark. You didn't know that was possible. This way, she says. No name, no welcome, just this way. You follow her through winding streets paved in ice-polished stones. Every building looks like it was built for defensive purposes first, and charm a very distant second. You pass by a cluster of children throwing snow at a frozen statue. One of them pauses to stare at you, then yells, "Courier!" like it's a curse or an accusation. You smile. Weakly. It's cold. Your nose is red. Your satchel feels heavier with every step. You're led to a small keep near the edge of town, perched dramatically on a cliff like it's trying to prove a point. Inside, warmth. Fireplaces. Tapestries that have clearly seen things. The woman with the bark board gestures toward a chamber door. Deliver it to the magistrate, she says. Anything I should know? You ask. She shrugs. He's got a temper. Don't stutter. Excellent. You push open the door. The magistrate's chamber is as warm and inviting as a frozen courtroom. A man sits at a desk the size of a small fishing boat. He doesn't look up. You step forward. Pull the scroll from your bag. Place it gently on his desk. He finally looks at you. Name? He demands. Courier, you reply. Temporary. Possibly permanent. I haven't received a badge yet. He grunts. Breaks the seal. Unrolls the parchment. Silence. Long silence. Then he begins to laugh. Not joyful laughter. Not even villain laughter. It's the slow, incredulous laugh of someone reading something so absurd short circuits their understanding of reality. You resist the urge to ask what it says. He reads a few lines aloud. This scroll confirms the temporary reassignment of Frost Hollow's grain quota to fulfill shortages in Thornpost's lower districts under duress of ice-related transport failures. He keeps reading. It gets worse. In exchange, Frost Hollow is granted honorary oversight of the Thornpost Candle Festival, effective immediately. You blink. The Candle Festival? He nods. It's a joke. That festival hasn't been held in decades. The last time they tried, someone's wig caught fire. He continues reading. As gesture of goodwill, please return 3 barrels of salted cod and a trained dog. He lowers the scroll, looks at you. Is this a prank? I don't know, you say honestly. I didn't open it. I'm still recovering from my last scroll. He leans back in his chair, looking like a man trying to calculate just how insulted he should feel. This document, he says slowly, makes no sense. It's an insult, or a mistake, or both. Would you like me to return a response? You offer. He waves his hand. No point. Let them wonder. Let them stew. Let them guess how we'll react. That's more valuable than any reply. You nod. Pretend you understand political strategy. He scribbles something on a torn bit of parchment, hands it to you. Take this to the baker in town. She owes me 3 turnovers. Tell her you earned one. And that's how you end up at a bakery that smells like heaven, chewing on the flakiest apple pastry you've ever encountered, staring at the fog through frosted glass, wondering what just happened. You delivered the scroll. You did your job. And yet, you think again of the scribe's words. Some messages are designed to deliver themselves. This one, it wasn't about cod, or candles, or even trade. It was about confusion, timing, interpretation. The magistrate will stew. The baron will wait. And between them, you, the thread, the link, the courier who carried nonsense that may very well become strategy. You wipe crumbs from your tunic and step back into the cold. Time to return. Unless, of course, there's another scroll. And as you round the corner, you see it. A man in a gray cloak holding out a sealed message. Red ribbon this time. No words. Just the handoff. And suddenly you know this is your life now. You take the red ribbon scroll. You don't even hesitate anymore, which should probably worry you more than it does. Your fingers close around the waxy seal like they've done this 100 times. Even though your feet still scream, your back protests, and your satchel weeps from the weight of new responsibility. The man who hands it to you says nothing, just nods once, respectful, maybe even regretful, and melts into the fog. Classic scroll operative behavior. You're not even surprised anymore. You glance at the ribbon. Crimson, tightly tied, formal. The wax seal has a symbol you don't recognize. 3 intersecting circles. Historians still argue whether that mark came from a noble family, a secret courier guild, or a baker with an inflated sense of branding. Whatever it means, you're once again carrying something that could change nothing or everything, and then you hear it. Hey, you there! You flinch, not because of guilt, but because the voice belongs to the local reeve, and he's running toward you with the speed and grace of a man who has eaten 3 meals of stew a day since the harvest festival. He stops short, gasping. You scroll runner? I prefer message facilitator, you say. He points at the scroll. Is that for him? You blink. I don't know who him is. The magistrate, he hisses. That pompous grain hoarder. I haven't read the scroll, you say, because you're learning. Slowly, Well, don't deliver it. You raise an eyebrow. That's my job. Then lose it, he says, suddenly whispering. Drop it in a ditch. Feed it to the goats. Just don't let it reach that office. Why? He leans in. Because that scroll? I recognize the ribbon. That's Thornpost Protocol, which means bribes, which means shifting grain quotas, which means my job is on the line. You resist the urge to ask why everything seems to revolve around grain. Instead, you say, So, do you want to intercept it? I want it to disappear, he mutters. And I never saw you. He slips you a coin. It's warm, sweaty, and smells faintly of root vegetables. You now face a classic courier dilemma. Deliver the scroll, uphold the sanctity of the path, and potentially ignite another cold war over barley. Accidentally misplace it and enjoy one very suspicious coin that might be lead painted gold. Eat the scroll, tempting but inadvisable. You sigh. Look, you say, I'm not here to shift the winds of politics. I'm just trying to get through a week without falling in a puddle of goat droppings. You and me both, the Reeve mutters. He walks away, cloak flapping like a soggy flag of treachery. You continue toward the magistrate's keep, but halfway there you stop, because parked at the edge of the square is a cart, a humble bread cart, and next to it, a baker, humming as she loads fresh loaves. She sees you, smiles. You again? You nod. She hands you a small, warm roll. Turnover did you good? Changed my life, you say truthfully. You eye her cart, and an idea forms. 10 minutes later, you're crouched in a side alley, carefully slicing open the bottom of a loaf of dark rye with a dull knife. Inside, you tuck the red ribboned scroll, rewrap the bread, and seal it with honey and hope. The scroll is now a sandwich with an agenda. You deliver the loaf to the magistrate's keep, as requested, on behalf of the baker. No one questions you. You're now just the bread guy. The guard nods. Put it on the table. You do. Then leave. Fast, back in the tavern, you order a drink. The fire crackles. Your fingers twitch with leftover adrenaline. A few minutes later, a page from the keep rushes in, wide-eyed, waving the loaf like it's cursed. Who delivered the bread? He shouts. You raise your mug. Wouldn't trust the baker, you say. She's always stuffing things where they don't belong. He runs out again. You sip. You've just successfully delivered a scroll without delivering it. You've also possibly framed a local baker for sedition. But honestly, she'll be fine. She looks like someone who's escaped worse. Later that night, you sit on the edge of your rented bed, staring at your satchel. It's empty for once, but you feel full of what? Not victory, not quite, not regret. Well, maybe a pinch. You feel something else. The strange, quiet satisfaction of having outmaneuvered a situation that didn't ask for your opinion, but sure tried to ruin your afternoon. Because being a scroll deliverer isn't just about moving paper, it's about moving intent. And sometimes, hiding it in rye, you blow out the candle and lie back. Somewhere out there, the magistrate is biting into a scroll. You fall asleep with a smile. You dream of scrolls unraveling endlessly, like ribbon pulled by an invisible wind. They spiral through the sky, looping over rooftops, curling around confused goats, drifting into wells, chimneys, and the occasional soup pot. You chase one. It turns into a pigeon, then into your mother, then into a loaf of bread. You wake up with a start. Sunlight filters through the warped window of the tavern room, casting a stained glass effect onto the floor. Except there's no glass. Just dust and a spider who looks deeply disappointed in you. You stretch. Every bone in your back makes a different sound. Your legs feel like they were borrowed from someone who fell off a horse yesterday and then got back on out of spite. You reach for your satchel, still empty, a rare sensation, like catching your reflection and realizing you don't look entirely like a damp scarecrow for once. But before your back can enjoy the freedom of scrolllessness, there's a knock at your door. 3 short raps. You freeze. No one knocks like that unless they're either carrying very important information or trying to sell questionable herbal remedies. You open the door a crack. It's a boy. 12, maybe 13. Dirt smudged, wearing a tunic 3 sizes too big, and grinning like he just got away with something. You the scroll person? He asks. You sigh. I used to be. He holds out a tiny scrap of parchment. You are again. You unfold the paper. It reads, Meet me at the dung smoker's barn. Sunset, come alone. You stare. Of course, because nothing says honest business transaction like meeting in a place that literally smells like regret and compost. You look at the boy. Who gave you this? He shrugs. Lady in a blue hat. Paid me with jam. Was it good jam? He nods. Best I've ever had. You tuck the note away and go downstairs for breakfast and mild existential reflection. The innkeeper serves you something that might be porridge or might be a mistake. You eat it anyway. You're used to disappointment with a spoon. All day you wait. You wander Frost Hollow. People nod at you now. Some even smile. One offers you a boot polish you're fairly sure is just butter. But no one stops you. By sunset, you're standing at the door of the dung smoker's barn. Why is it always barns? You step inside. The air is thick, smoky, tinged with the pungent, earthy aroma of fermented everything. There's a soft hiss from a nearby corner where something is slowly being cured or possibly punished. In the dim light, a figure waits. It's the scribe from Iron Ridge. Of course it is. They step forward, brushing soot from their shoulder. Congratulations, they say. You blink. On what? Your scroll loaf. It made it to the magistrate. Caused exactly the right amount of confusion. He's rethinking his alliance. I also might have implicated the baker. She'll be fine, the scribe says. She's married to the guard captain. Ah, you cross your arms. Why are we in a barn that smells like hoof-based crime? Because, the scribe says, pulling a scroll from their cloak, this is off the record. They hold it out. You take it. The ribbon is black this time. The wax seal, broken circle again. Your eyes narrow. This symbol, it's come up before. It means the scroll was meant to be seen, they say, not necessarily believed. You squint. That's unhelpfully cryptic. They grin. Now you're catching on. You sit on a hay bale. Can I ask something? Of course. Who are you really? The scribe doesn't answer right away. They pace slowly, trailing a finger along the smoke-dark wall. Once, they say, I was just like you. Ran my first scroll between 2 angry cousins fighting over property lines and a missing chicken. By the end of it, both cousins were dead. The chicken was mayor, and I realized the message didn't matter. The timing did. You stare. The chicken was mayor? They wave it off. Symbolically, you shake your head. So what am I now? A pawn? A postman with delusions of political influence? No, the scribe says. You're a pivot, a hinge, someone trusted not because of who you are, but because you keep showing up. Muddy, half-starved, and still curious. You look at the scroll. What's in this one? They smile. I don't know. It's not mine. It came from someone who trusts you. You raise an eyebrow. Someone trusts me? Amazing, isn't it? You laugh, but it comes out more like a cough. You pocket the scroll. The scribe leans closer. Last piece of advice. Don't open this one. Even if it talks to you, you blink. Is that a possibility? They shrug. Weirder things have happened. Ever heard of the Whispering Scroll of Feldmore? No. Good, don't. And just like that, they vanish into the haze, leaving you alone with a black ribbon scroll, a head full of riddles, and the deeply unsettling knowledge that you might actually be enjoying this now. You step out into the cold. The night is clear. Stars dust the sky. Your breath clouds in front of you like a tiny fog machine working overtime. You start walking again, back toward the trail, toward whoever's waiting next. Because now, you're not just delivering scrolls, you're delivering stories. Some true, some dangerous, some that might change everything if they're read by the right eyes at the right moment. And somehow, you've become the moment. The trail out of Frost Hollow is darker than usual, not because it's night, though it is, and the moon is doing a pretty poor job of being helpful, but because you're no longer walking in ignorance. That black ribbon scroll in your satchel hums. Not literally, probably, but there's a weight to it that has nothing to do with parchment. It's the kind of weight that whispers to your ribs, you should be worried. You are. But you also feel something else. A weird, sleep-deprived thrill. You've spent days slogging through mud, dodging nobles, outsmarting reeves, and hiding messages in baked goods. You've been followed, questioned, mildly threatened, and accidentally made political waves with a sourdough loaf, and yet you're still here, still carrying, still delivering, and now someone out there thinks you're trustworthy enough for a scroll with no instructions, no seal of origin, and a ribbon that probably means this could get you flung off a tower. Comforting. The road winds downhill, gravel crunching underfoot. The stars blink overhead like they're watching, but not intervening. Very on brand. By sunrise, you find yourself in a glen. It's oddly quiet. No birds, no wind. Just you, a suspiciously perfect circle of grass, and a wooden post with a piece of twine hanging from it. A courier marker. Someone left this here for you. Attached to the post is a scrap of parchment. Cross the glen. Enter the old watchtower. Do not knock. Do not speak. Deliver the scroll to the figure in white. You stare at the note, then at the glen, then back at the note. It's one of those moments where you're acutely aware that every choice you've made has led you here, and you're really starting to question the jam economy of this entire profession. Still, you step forward. The grass is soft, springy. It doesn't feel right. It feels prepared. You cross quickly, trying not to think about fairy tales or cursed mushrooms or magical entities with strong opinions about trespassers. The watchtower looms ahead, cracked and leaning, a ruin, but one with purpose. Someone's been keeping it from collapsing entirely, patching stones with moss, anchoring was loose beams. You push the door open gently. Inside, silence, and one figure, draped in white robes, hood drawn low. They sit on a stone stool in the center of the room, hands folded. You say nothing. You step forward. You reach into your satchel, careful not to let your hand shake. The scroll slides free, like it knows this is the end of the line. You place it in their hands. They nod once, and that's it. No thank you, no questions, no riddles, just one simple gesture. A second scroll is slid toward you. This one sealed in gray wax, with no ribbon at all. You pick it up. You leave. And the figure doesn't move. Outside, the glen is still silent. But the birds start to return as you pass the halfway mark. You don't look back. You don't want to know if the figure is still watching. You walk and walk. And then, somewhere down the trail, just as you're wondering if you've officially joined a courier cult, someone whistles. You look up. It's another courier. You can tell by the cloak, the gait, the slightly haunted look of someone who hasn't had a proper nap since last spring. They fall into step beside you. Gray seal? They ask, nodding at your satchel. You nod. No ribbon. You nod again. They whistle low. You've been marked. Marked for what? They smile grimly. That's the fun part. Could be trust. Could be doom. Could just mean you're now part of the invisible thread. You blink. What thread? They don't answer. Instead, they ask, how many scrolls have you carried? You think? 10? Maybe 12? I've lost count. They nod. That's when it starts. The transition. Transition into what? They shrug. The ones who choose their path. Instead of just following it, you stare. That sounds vague. It is. Welcome to the next tier. Before you can demand clarification, they veer off the trail and disappear into a cluster of trees, as if delivered by wind and carried off by narrative convenience. You're alone again. You stop. Sit on a rock. Pull out the gray sealed scroll. You don't open it. You just look at it. It has no crest, no address, no weighty ribbon. It is neutral, calm, like a letter to no one or everyone. Historians still argue whether gray sealed scrolls were meant for kings, spies, or merely forgotten bureaucrats. But everyone agrees on one thing. When you're handed one, you don't go back to being just a messenger. You sigh, then stand. There's a fork in the road ahead, to the left. Back toward towns, villages, normal delivery routes. To the right, toward the foothills, the long trails, the places without names. You go right, because now you're not just carrying messages, you're carrying momentum. And somewhere, deep in the folds of your satchel, beneath all the crumbs and crumpled doubts, is purpose. The foothill trail is quiet in that suspicious way that makes you keep looking behind you. Not because you're expecting to see someone, but because you might have forgotten someone. A companion, a shadow, a sanity you left somewhere between a burning bakery and a mysterious scribe who speaks exclusively in riddles and political metaphors. But there's only you now. You, the wind, and a scroll sealed in gray wax that doesn't tell you where to go, only that you should go. The path weaves between low hills and crooked trees. You pass an abandoned orchard where apples dangle from half-dead branches like nature's version of mood lighting. The air smells like dry grass, old wood, and someone else's unfinished decisions. You try not to think too hard about what the scroll contains. You're getting better at that. Selective ignorance. It's becoming your strongest skill. Instead, you focus on movement, on the rhythm of your boots, the creak of your satchel strap, the occasional threat of a blister uprising. The world has gotten bigger since you started this job, but also weirder. You wonder how many people walk the world every day carrying things they'll never understand. Scrolls, secrets, regrets, wrapped up neatly in ribbon and responsibility. Around midday, you spot something strange. A signpost, but it's blank. Carved from stone, polished smooth, standing tall in the middle of a clearing, like it's daring you to guess what it used to say. You circle it. No words, no symbols, just presence. A man sits beneath it, not a guard, not a scribe, just a man in a green cloak, flipping a coin. You approach cautiously. He doesn't look up. Courier, he asks. You hesitate. Yes, I think, maybe. That's the correct answer, he says, still flipping the coin. He finally looks at you. Weathered face. Crow's feet so deep you could store small notes in them. I was told someone with a gray seal would pass through here, he says, and that when they did, I should offer them a choice. Of course you were, you say, exhausted. He smiles faintly. Two paths. One goes north, to the cliffs. You'll meet someone who wants the scroll. And the other goes east, through the marsh. You'll meet someone who needs it. You blink. Those sound different. They are, he says, flipping the coin again. One will thank you. The other might try to kill you. Cool, 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 cool. He flicks the coin at you. You catch it. It's warm. One side has a sun, the other a tree. What does the coin mean, you ask. Nothing, he says, or everything. You hand it back. No thanks. I've had enough cryptic for one lifetime. He shrugs and pockets the coin. Then decide without it. You look at the two paths: north, cliffs, wants; east, marsh, needs. You pick east because, honestly, you're more afraid of people who want things than people who need them. The man nods, unsurprised. May your scroll stay dry, he says. You march into the marsh. It's worse than you imagined. The air is thick, wet, loud with bugs the size of regional leaders. Every step squelches like you've insulted the earth, and it's choosing to respond with goo. The path becomes less of a trail and more of a theory. You slip twice. The second time, you land face first in something that smells like expired soup. You keep going. The sun disappears behind fog. Shadows dance in the reeds. At one point, you're fairly certain you see a frog making direct eye contact and shaking its head in disapproval. Then, up ahead, a structure, not a house, more like a shack stapled to a larger shack, with a roof held together by moss and possibly spite. You approach. A woman stands outside, barefoot, hair like a thundercloud, eyes sharp enough to edit a manuscript. She sees the scroll before she sees you. Is that it? She asks. You nod. Gray seal? She adds. You nod again. She holds out her hand. You hesitate. Are you the one who needs it? You ask. She smiles, slow and sad. Yes. You give her the scroll. She takes it like it might break, walks inside, doesn't say another word. You don't follow. You sit on a log near the shack, brushing swamp debris from your sleeve. A few minutes later, she reappears. Her face is different now, not relieved, but resolved. That scroll, she says, was a confession. You look up. Whose? A king's. Dead 2 years now, but someone wanted the truth known, quietly. She sits beside you. I lost a son to that truth, she says, the kind of loss you don't write down. You nod. Because some things don't need to be understood to be felt. That confession won't change the past, she says, but it might loosen the grip of the lie. You sit together in silence. The marsh gurgles in approval. Finally, she reaches into her tunic and pulls out a small scroll, sealed with yellow wax. For you, she says. You blink. Another scroll? She smiles. Another thread. You take it. She stands, walks back into her shack. The door creaks shut behind her like a sigh. You stare at the scroll. No ribbon, no name, just yellow wax. Historians still debate whether yellow sealed scrolls were meant to warn or invite. Some say they were messages of peace. Others, the final instructions before war. You pocket it and begin walking again, north this time, because the next story is waiting, and you're the one still carrying it forward. By now, you don't even bother asking where these scrolls come from. You just carry them, through fog, through fire, through marshes, glens, feasts, fights, scroll-shaped bread loaves, and conversations with people who speak exclusively in metaphors and stare just a little too long. The yellow sealed scroll in your satchel hums with its own particular tension, not sharp like red, not blank like gray. This one buzzes, not audibly, but in the way you feel in your teeth when someone's lying to you politely. The road north from the marsh climbs fast, winding into pine-draped hills that smell like sap, soot, and long-forgotten bear encounters. Your legs burn. Your boots mutter curses under their breath. But you walk on. Somewhere in the back of your mind, a thought begins to form. You were supposed to be a farmer. You were supposed to plant things, grow things, misidentify weeds with confidence, and sleep next to someone who occasionally threw turnips at you for snoring. That was the plan. The simple life: mud, rain, family, predictable. Now, now you carry sealed mysteries across dangerous lands for strangers who treat you like both a ghost and a threat. And you've never felt more useful. Midway through the climb, the path narrows into what can generously be described as a ledge and less generously described as a practical joke by geography. To your right, rock wall. To your left, air, wind, and certain doom. Ahead, a man with a desk. Yes, a desk. Just sitting there, balanced neatly on the ledge like someone placed it by crane. Behind it sits a figure in fur-lined robes, scribbling intently. You approach slowly. Are you blocking the trail? He doesn't look up. I prefer administratively filtering. Of course you do. You sigh. Let me guess. I have to sign something. He nods. Courier log. We're implementing tracking protocols. People keep claiming they delivered scrolls, when really they just got distracted by berries. Tragic. He pushes a parchment toward you. You sign. You also draw a goat in the corner for reasons unknown even to yourself. He finally looks up. Yellow seal? He asks. You nod. He whistles. Well, someone trusts you with timing. What does that mean? He shrugs. Yellow scrolls only work if delivered at the exact right moment. Not early, not late, not on alternate Wednesdays during a waning moon. Great. Love a punctual curse. He smiles. You're close. Just past the ridge. Little village called Redmere. You raise an eyebrow. Never heard of it. No one has. That's the point. He waves you on. You leave him and his desk balanced impossibly on the cliff like a literary hallucination. You hike upward. The sky opens around you, vast, blue, and indifferent. Crows circle in lazy spirals. The trees thin out. You crest the ridge, and there it is. Redmere, a handful of buildings clustered around a frozen pond. A windmill that clearly gave up mid-century. Smoke curling from one chimney. No wall, no guards. Just existence. Stubborn and quiet. You descend. The villagers watch you arrive with the wary politeness of people who expect outsiders to bring bad news or taxes. Maybe both. A woman greets you near the pond. She's old, like outlived 3 regimes, and possibly time itself. Old. Her face is carved with lines, her eyes sharp as thawing ice. You've got it, she says before you even speak. You hesitate. Got what? The yellow, she says, reaching out. You hand over the scroll. She holds it gently, like it's fragile or sacred or both. She studies the seal. It's time, she says, mostly to herself. Then she turns and walks toward the town square, ringing a tiny silver bell with each step. The villagers gather. You stand back, confused, scrollless once again. The old woman climbs a wooden platform and breaks the seal. She reads aloud. The words spill out, not in booming proclamation, but in quiet certainty. The debt is cleared. The last contract of Redmere is dissolved. The village is no longer bound by the pact of 3 streams. You are free. Gasps ripple through the crowd. One man sits down suddenly, as if the ground just forgave him. A child begins to cry, not from fear, but from relief they don't understand. You watch it all unfold without context. You don't need context. You delivered freedom. No sword, no gold, just a scroll, sealed in yellow, timed just right. Later, at the makeshift feast, because apparently this calls for soup, you sit beside the old woman. She pours you a mug of cider that tastes like apples and applause. You've done something rare, she says. Most couriers deliver news. You delivered release. You blink. What was the pact of three streams? She smiles. It doesn't matter anymore. You sit in silence. The stars arrive early over Redmere. They shine brighter here, like they're grateful to be invited. The villagers sing something ancient and off key. Someone offers you more soup. You accept. You wonder what the next scroll will be. You wonder what you are becoming. And as you lean back against the side of the windmill, warm cider in hand, you realize you may be walking roads others fear, but you're also walking roads that matter. You leave Redmere at dawn, your boots soaked in dew and gratitude. The villagers don't say goodbye. They just nod. Some smile. One child slips a pebble into your pocket and runs away. You don't check what kind. It just feels right to carry something small and mysterious, like a metaphor for your entire life now. The trail curls west, down into a valley that smells of damp earth, moss, and things that probably croak after midnight. Your satchel is empty again, and yet somehow heavier, as if your body remembers the yellow scroll and has chosen to honor its absence with lower back pain. You hum as you walk, just a little tune you don't recognize. It might be a song, or a warning, or indigestion. 3 hours in, you find a tree that doesn't belong. It's short, crooked, covered in red string and feathers, as if someone had dressed it up for a ceremonial bird-themed holiday. At its base, a box, wooden, hinged, waiting. You approach slowly, half expecting it to hiss or offer you unsolicited opinions. It doesn't. Instead, you find a scroll inside. This one is sealed in silver wax, etched with a symbol, an eye with a tear falling into a cup. You close the lid, sit beside the tree. You've never seen that symbol before. Historians, of course, still argue what the eye and cup meant. Some say it was a sign of absolution. Others think it denoted emotional ransom, a way to force honesty out of the unwilling. Either way, it probably means this scroll is about to complicate your evening plans. You don't open it. You tuck it carefully into your satchel and stand. There's a rustling behind you. You spin. A young man stands there, clutching a staff made of twisted willow. His clothes are patched. His eyes are tired. But there's something sharp in him, a hidden blade beneath all that road weariness. You found it, he says, staring at your satchel. I did. That's mine. Is it? He nods once. I was supposed to deliver it. Why didn't you? He hesitates. Because I read it. You blink. You opened a sealed scroll? I needed to know, he says. It was about me. You sit back down. Tell me. He does. The scroll, he explains, is addressed to a woman in a nearby village. It's a confession. From a man who left years ago, fathered a child, and vanished. It names her son, this boy, as his heir, land, title, debt, the whole tangled inheritance. You didn't want her to know, you say quietly. He shrugs. I didn't want to be claimed. You think for a moment, then offer the scroll. He doesn't take it. She deserves to read it, he says, but not from me. So now, of course, it's your job. The village is small. Roofs of thatch and worry. Chickens rule the roads. Children roam like tiny mobs of curiosity and stick-wielding anarchy. You find her in a garden, mid-30s, strong hands, the kind of face that has weathered every kind of silence. You don't speak. You hand her the scroll. She takes it, reads it, says nothing. Tears rise. One falls, just one. She folds the scroll, places it in her apron. Thank you, she says, and returns to her tomatoes. You don't follow. Back at the edge of the village, the boy waits, sitting on a stump, watching ants. She read it? He asks. You nod. He doesn't ask what she did next. You both sit in silence. After a while, he says, I don't want the land. That's not really what it's about, you reply. He nods. It's about the knowing. You stand, adjust your satchel. He hands you a new scroll, small, sealed in blue wax. She gave me this to give you, he says. Didn't say what it was. You take it. Of course. That night, you camp beneath a sky so full of stars it looks reckless. You eat bread that tastes like wood and cheese that tastes like secrets. The scroll glows faintly in the firelight. You don't open it. Not yet. Instead, you think about all the things you've carried. You've delivered lies disguised as orders, truths disguised as jokes, confessions, blessings, curses, with polite punctuation. And now, this something quiet, something earned, something passed from someone who lost something to someone who gained something they didn't ask for. You're not just moving parchment, you're moving closure. Tomorrow, you'll deliver again. Because someone always writes, someone always waits, and someone like you, muddy, tired, slightly crispy around the edges, shows up in between. The next morning greets you with a headache shaped like your own sleeping position and a suspiciously missing left sock. You find it halfway down the hill, tangled around a pine cone, which feels metaphorical in a way you choose not to examine too closely. You're learning to let some mysteries go. You shoulder your satchel. Inside, the blue sealed scroll waits, quiet and oddly comforting. Blue wax, calm, steady, often associated with records, boundaries, and agreements made without yelling. Historians suggest blue scrolls were most often used in matters of diplomacy or ceasefires, or, more rarely, love letters disguised as financial audits. The trail out of the village curves toward the coast. You smell the salt before you see it. Sea air, tangy, sharp, briny, like your nose has been slapped by a wet encyclopedia of nautical trivia. The wind carries gull cries and the occasional shouted regret from fishermen trying to untangle nets from each other's business. You reach a harbor town around noon. It's called Whalefall, which is either poetic or unsettling, depending on your mood and opinion of marine accidents. The docks creak beneath crates, boots, and gossip. You pass a fishmonger arguing with a barrel. No one seems alarmed. You head toward the central post. You know the signs by now, carved symbols in the stone, slightly cleaner steps, a faint scent of ink and stress. Inside, a scribe waits. She's young, stern, eyebrows shaped like punctuation marks. Courier, she asks. You nod. Blue seal, she adds. You nod again, slipping the scroll from your satchel like it's a secret wrapped in calm expectations. She accepts it with both hands, places it gently on her desk, then sighs like someone who's been holding a breath since last harvest. I've been waiting for this, she says. 3 years. You blink. You knew it was coming. I hoped it would. She breaks the seal, unrolls it, reads. Her lips twitch, once, twice. Then she stands, walks to a shelf, pulls out a matching scroll, also blue, and lays it beside the first. They match, she whispers. You lean in. The two scrolls mirror each other. Same symbol, same structure. One written long ago, full of terms, boundaries, conditions. The other, yours, an acceptance, a peace offering. These towns have been arguing over fishing rights since before I was born, she says. But this, she taps the parchment. This ends it. No more fighting, no more broken nets, no more oaths shouted across tide pools, no more midnight sabotage involving overly enthusiastic crabs. You pause. There were crabs? She nods solemnly. Too many. She rolls both scrolls together and ties them with a fresh ribbon. Would you like a receipt? She asks. You blink. You do receipts? Of course, she says. Some people like tangible proof of their usefulness. She scribbles something on a card and hands it to you. It reads, "Scroll delivered, peace achieved, coffee pending." You tuck it into your satchel. You step back into the harbor sunlight, blinking against the salt wind. Something has changed. You didn't just deliver this time. You ended something. Not a war, not a coup, but something quieter. Something woven into daily life like a knot in a shoelace. And that's how you know you're not just a courier anymore. You're an unraveler, a thread cutter, someone who doesn't just carry the message, but decides where it settles, how it lands, what wakes, it stirs. You find a bench by the dock, watch the boat sway, eat a pear you forgot you had. Then someone sits beside you. You don't look, you just say, "Ribbon color?" They reply, "None." You turn. An older man, soft clothes, kind eyes. In his hand, a scroll with no seal, no wax, no anything. Just parchment, rolled and tied with twine. You frown. That's not standard. He nods. This one's different. From where? Everywhere. For whom? He smiles. Whoever needs it most. You hesitate. And I'm supposed to guess? He shrugs. Not guess. No. You've done this long enough. You take it. It's light. Featherweight. Feels like it might float away if you breathe too hard. No destination. No instructions. Just trust. You sit quietly as the waves crash. You're being asked to decide. And for once, the responsibility doesn't terrify you. It humbles you. You tuck the scroll away, stand up. The sea calls behind you, but ahead, a crossroads. And maybe, just maybe, the person who needs this scroll is only a few steps from here. You carry the unsealed scroll with the careful uncertainty of someone holding a baby made of riddles. No wax, no ribbon, no crest, just twine and trust. And that's somehow more intimidating than all the crimson sealed declarations you've ever fumbled through. Because now you decide where it goes. No instructions. No delivered to the West Tower. By sundown or frogs will rain. Just a parchment that feels like it's waiting, not to be delivered, but to be understood. You leave Whalefall at first light, following a trail that barely qualifies as one. It winds through grassy cliffs, overgrown paths, and one very territorial goose you bribe with crumbs and apologies. All day you think about the scroll. Who needs it? Someone who's waiting, sure. But for what? An answer, a peace, a truth? You consider all the people you've met. The boy who wouldn't deliver his own legacy. The woman who rang a bell and read a scroll like it was a release spell. The scribe who tracked ceasefires like rainfall. The scribe who made you hide in a barn. The baker who possibly still wants to fight you. And you wonder, what if this scroll is meant for you? You stop walking, sit on a rock, pull the scroll out. It's so light, like paper folded from air. You run your fingers along the twine. You think about the stories you've carried, the lies you've protected, the truths you've let unfold in other people's hands. Maybe it's time to see what it feels like on the other side. You untie the knot. The scroll unfurls gently. Inside, a single line. You are now one of us. That's it. No signature. No dramatic prophecy. No map to the hidden council of scroll whisperers. Just that. You laugh. A little too hard. You're tired. You're sunburned. You have at least 3 blisters named after minor royalty. But this makes sense. Because this job, this life, it was never about instructions. It was about becoming. You've crossed from delivery boy to threadbearer, from porter to participant. You're no longer someone who moves the message. You are the message. And someone, somewhere saw that coming long before you did. You roll up the scroll, tuck it into your satchel. Even if it was meant for you, It might still be meant for someone else, too. That's the thing about stories. They don't stop with the first reader. You reach the next town just before dusk. It's called Barrowlight. It smells like honey, hay, and broken promises. You like it already. The local post is a two-room structure with more pigeons than people. A small plaque reads, Official Outpost 17 of the Interregional Courier Assembly and Fudge Society. You're too tired to ask about the fudge. Inside, a man in a navy tunic greets you. He's younger than expected, eager in that way that suggests he still believes scrolls are just about information, not manipulation. You smile. Poor kid. Name, he asks. You hesitate. No longer matters. He chuckles. You must be the one. You raise an eyebrow. There's always a one. He hands you a small satchel, stamped with the seal of the assembly. Inside, a black cloak, a silver brooch, and a parchment marked confidential for the bearer only. You open it. It reads, Congratulations. You have survived delivery, discretion, deception, digestion, detainment, and at least one goat-related escape. You are now officially recognized as a scroll deliverer, rank 1. This entitles you to access to all non-magical corridors and passage roads, a bunk in any outpost station as available, one annual feast, bring your own plate. 3. Emergency excuses, redeemable by word or wink, and the quiet understanding that you know more than most and less than you think. There's no signature, just a stamped symbol, the broken circle. The clerk grins. We've been expecting you. Took you long enough. You blink. How many people are in this courier thing? He shrugs. Enough to change the world slowly, quietly, one scroll at a time. You sit down. Finally, your legs swing under the desk like a child at a lecture. He brings you tea. It's lukewarm and tastes like paper, but it's still the best cup you've had in weeks. You stare at your new cloak, black, soft, heavy, with promise. You're one of us now, he says. You nod. You already knew, because the scroll told you, and now so does your gut. You get one night of rest. Then tomorrow, another scroll, another journey, another story, hidden inside folded paper and sealed wax and silent hope. But for tonight, you're not running. You're not trudging through swamps or bribing goats or hiding in bread. You're here. You've arrived. Not at the end, but at a beginning. You sleep that night in a real bed with an actual mattress and sheets that don't crunch. It's unsettling. Your body, used to hay, stone, and the occasional moss mistake, doesn't know how to relax. You lie there, eyes wide, wondering if comfort is a trap. Then you roll over and fall asleep so fast, your dreams don't have time to organize themselves. When you wake, the morning is gentle, soft light, no shouting, no mysterious messengers, no scrolls tied to poultry legs. You rise slowly, joints cracking like firewood. Your cloak, black and official, hangs from a peg. The silver brooch catches the light, a quiet badge of everything you've stumbled, wheezed, and accidentally revolutionized your way through. You drink tea, the good kind, with leaves. And then, when you're finally ready, you ask the clerk at Outpost 17 if there's a scroll waiting. He smirks. Of course there is. But this one's different. He slides it across the desk like it's an heirloom or a challenge. There's no seal, no wax, no ribbon, just a name. Yours. You blink. No one's ever sent a scroll to you. You hesitate. Then open it. Inside, in handwriting you somehow recognize but can't place, are 6 words. The message was always your story. You read it twice. You laugh. It sounds strange in the quiet of the outpost. Something between relief and recognition. Because, of course, the real message wasn't in the scrolls. It wasn't in the wax or the signatures or the ridiculous trail markers shaped like emotionally conflicted squirrels. It was you, the carrier, you, the thread, you, who walked when others waited, who delivered truth, chaos, closure, forgiveness, and very confusing trade deals. You, who carried something more than parchment, purpose, weight, change. You step outside, scroll still in hand. The road stretches ahead, new, unmarked sunlit. Someone waves to you from a cart. Someone else asks for directions. A child points at your cloak and says, "That means stories, doesn't it?" And you nod. Because it does. Because now every step you take is part of something bigger. And though you may still trip on roots, lose socks, and occasionally end up in a barn that smells like destiny and goat, you've become what most never realize they were meant to be: a deliverer of words, of moments, of meaning. And somewhere out there, someone is waiting for the next scroll. But tonight, you don't have to rush. Tonight, you can rest. Tonight, you can simply be. Because the story doesn't end, it just pauses for breath. The road quiets. Your boots sit by the door, drying by the hearth, still caked with trails you barely remember walking. The satchel lies open, empty of scrolls but full of silent memories, loaves baked with secrets, whispers exchanged in shadow towers, and the faces of strangers who briefly became chapters in your tale. The wind outside is gentle now, no more urgent messages, no more cryptic scribe notes, or color coded wax seals judging your choices. Just the hush of evening air and the soft rustle of trees, reminding you that not all messages come wrapped in parchment. Sometimes the most important ones come quietly, in rest, in reflection, in the silence between steps. So you let your shoulders soften, you feel the weight leave, not suddenly, but like fog lifting from your thoughts. You remember the marsh, the bakery, the glen, the watchtower, and that ridiculous ridge path with the desk. You remember the odd comfort of carrying something precious, even when you didn't understand it. You remember that someone always writes, someone always waits, and someone always walks between. For now, the scrolls can sleep, and so can you. So rest, dear courier. Let the fire fade. Let your breath slow. Let the night hold you gently, like folded paper in a satchel well worn. Because tomorrow, when you're ready, the next message will find you, and you'll carry it, just like always.